First story. Got married to who I thought was my dream girl. She was cheating from the second we got together. This is by far the craziest thing I've ever experienced from all angles. This is the story of how my 22M marriage lasted less than 4 months. I met her when I was 15 and she was 24. No, there was no inappropriate interactions back then. She was the older sister of one of my friends, and I had the biggest crush on her. You know when you're a kid and you meet someone you think is gorgeous and cool, so you idolize them without barely knowing anything about them? Yeah, that was my downfall. We remained in contact over the years, even after her brother and I fell out. She would check in now and then, wish me happy holidays. Simple things like that. When I turned 18, I had gotten right out of a relationship where I found out I was the other guy, and was pretty broken up about it. I also wasn't medicated and I needed to be, so I was very reckless. I ended up growing a massive pair when I was drunk, and texted her one of those super cringy "wanna hook up" messages. To my surprise, she told me to come over. I arrived at her house around 4 a.m. and was sobering up by this point. Instead of a hookup, I was sat on her couch and asked a bunch of relationship-based questions like I was being interrogated. Things like, why did your last relationships end and would you consider yourself loyal? I guess I passed and we hooked up, only she told me not to leave in the morning. I was enamored and we ended up spending every waking moment together. I learned on day 2 that she had a boyfriend. I confronted her, because we had even had a talk during her interrogation, that I was still super hurt by being the other guy unknowingly with my last. After that conversation, he was wiped from all her socials. She told me she dumped him for me. I wouldn't have believed her if all of her friends weren't pushing me heavily to date her, telling me she adores me and I'd be stupid not to. So I did. We were official. Here is where it gets insane and stupid. 2 weeks and we were drunk and having these super in-depth talks. I jokingly asked her to marry me. To my surprise, she took it serious. She said yes. That's when my shitty mental health was like, you've always wanted a wife. Here is your chance to be with someone you've wanted for years. So we eloped that night. I moved in with her. We were together nonstop, only separated when I was doing shifts, and they weren't that long. I also often work from home. I told her more than I have ever told anyone to this day. I just dove right in and put my heart on my sleeve. I wanted it to work and have that real partnership. I was always there for her. Incredible, near constant sex. Comforted her about all her traumas. Ran to her if she needed. I even cut off all my female friends, so almost all my friends, because I'm a very charismatic person who often comes off flirty. I was told if I accidentally flirted she would leave me. I was trying to be all in. 2 months in. Yes, 2 months. She started getting distant and not answering her phone. She wouldn't want to be around me all the time anymore. She would disappear all the time and come home super late. I knew something was up, so I asked her. I told her she could tell me anything. She even knew from previous discussions I'm not a jealous person, that I do open or poly, but she didn't want that. She started gaslighting, the proper use, telling me that everything was perfectly fine, that she loved me more than anyone, and she doesn't know why I would think anything is wrong. I knew it was off. Within a week I was contacted by these 2 random dudes saying they wanted to talk to me. I already knew what was up. I met them at a local coffee shop with a girl that was my wife's friend. They told me so much SHT she had been 2-timing them behind my back. They didn't know she was married until she introduced them to her friends and expected them to say nothing. But her one friend did because she thought I deserved better. I was shown graphic text exchanges, nude photo exchanges. At least one had clearly been around since we got married and they had been hooking up. She was SHT talking me to them, saying I was neglecting her and ignored her. She was the one leaving me on red and not talking to me the past week, and prior we were hanging off each other. On top of that, Her friend told me that relationship she had before didn't end when she told me it did. Her previous boyfriend left her when he became aware she was suddenly married to me. He didn't even know I existed. His girlfriend was just randomly married to someone else, and she picked up another right after. They asked me if I was going to stay with her, and I told them they could have her. At least one was kinda hostile, and went, "Wow, you're giving up that easy, why the hell would I stay?" I confronted her when I got home. Even told her this was her last chance to tell me the truth. She told me I was crazy and she doesn't know why I wouldn't trust her. I showed her all the evidence. She acted baffled and like she didn't even know what it all was. So I packed my things and left. Filed for divorce immediately. The next day after I moved out, she was posting photos with another guy I didn't recognize. She was in a relationship with him now. Less than 12 hours after her husband left her, most her friends still liked me and would check in. This was apparently a pattern for her, without the marriage, and every single tiny thing she told me was a lie. I was married to someone I didn't even know at all, and all I got from it was chlamydia. Might be my least favorite person I've ever met. If you're wondering, yes, she did try an HMU later. I got married to someone I had a crush on all through high school after 2 weeks of dating. She was cheating on me from the moment we first hooked up until our divorce, and was in a new relationship 12 hours after I left her, even though she called me crazy for not believing she didn't cheat. Second story. My ex-GF and my best friend cheated on me. I, 24 am a doctor who graduated from my med school last year only. Doctors here in India have a late start, and therefore I'm still dependent on my parents for my basic needs. This background I'm writing is to establish that I'm not someone who can take big risks or decisions for life, which require finances and settling down in life. I met her 25th in my first semester at med school. We were both very innocent and honest. Neither of us had ever dated anyone before. She was my closest friend, and I was her only friend. We hung out for nearly a year, went on dates, and finally entered into a relationship when we felt the time was right. First love, first relationship. We were idolized by everyone around us. She had a very strong personality, could easily get offended, argue or debate expressing her feelings and displeasure. My best friend hated her and didn't respect her since day one. Even she never liked him, but gave the relation a few chances because he was so close to me. But this guy always made her feel lesser and avoided talking to her. I had to intervene so many times to resolve things to maintain my mental peace. He was a popular alpha guy in our institute and was pretty good at getting almost all the women he ever wanted. We had a group of 9-10 members, and slowly over the years my girlfriend too became a part of it, but only as my GF. Around 4 years passed by and we were stronger than ever. But this was the end of our course and we all had to separate and depart to our respective cities. It was difficult, but I held myself pretty well, but she was shattered. She was so obsessed with me, would fall asleep after crying all night long for the first few weeks. Then a month later, this best friend of mine had given an exam for a foreign PG course. Happened to be in her city post the exam. He wanted to explore the famous place, spending a weekend there. He invited everyone from our group who were around to spend time with him, including my GF. All 6 of them, together, rented an Airbnb for 3 days. I couldn't be there due to family restrictions and regretted it all the time. I talked to them every day, at every single time possible. They went to pubs, partied all night, ate out at the best cafes, etc., etc. Suddenly, post that weekend, my GF's behavior changed. We started having more fights and less resolutions. She cared lesser and lesser each passing day. We were going to meet each other at the graduation ceremony in a couple of months, so I ignored these events and was only excited to see her ASAP. We all met, and that was probably the last time I genuinely smiled or felt good about something. She broke me, wasn't even looking at me properly, as if I didn't exist only. She was good with others, having a great time, and here I was dying bit by bit from the inside. I noticed a lot, caught the signs, which were so obvious, but was busy begging to her for the attention and love I was imagining belonged to me. I tried my best to save the relationship, but she pushed me hard and far enough to finally end things between us, officially. The suffering began, and I was thinking about it all the time, alone at my hometown. I was constantly in touch with my best friend who would listen to me and support me. He was the only person, the only friend I had. A few months later, my now ex planned a similar post-exam trip to my best friend's hometown. Invited everyone around, except me. My best friend called me, but I again could not go due to the restrictions at home. Just when this trip ended, I got an anonymous call, telling me that my best friend and my ex had been hooking up for a while, and even at the time when we were dating. This completely broke me. The only two people, whom I trusted and loved the most, shared all my pain and feeling with, were the ones cheating on me since all these months. I could see all those signs here and there, but couldn't care less to pay attention because how could that ever be possible? Obviously, both of them denied all of it. Others also knew about it, individually would confirm about it happening with little details, but nobody was talking or was ready for a confrontation. Nobody supported me because anyway there wasn't any evidence. No pictures or videos, no texts or confession recordings, only denial. Very quickly and swiftly everybody went ahead with their lives, and here I got diagnosed with severe depression. I started my medical treatment. It's been around 7 months and I still need it. I haven't been able to move on from all that betrayal till date. So many unanswered questions, and only imaginary assumptions as answers. Is this common? Your best friend, just for some fun, secretly playing with your life, ruining everything, and then leaving with zero accountability? Not in contact with either of them or anyone from that group. Third story. I outed my best friend for cheating on his girl, and now everyone in my friend group hates me. I've known this guy since we were kids. We grew up together, and he was always the nicest dude. But once we hit college, he started hanging out with this scummy frat crowd. We stayed friends, but he started doing shady stuff. Meanwhile, he had a girlfriend, who was also one of my friends and genuinely a great person. He ended up cheating on her, like, all the time, with different girls at the university. He didn't even seem to care. It pissed me off because she actually loved him, and he was just messing around. So, I decided to tell her. I thought she deserved to know. Big mistake. She didn't believe me at all. Instead, she told him I was trying to get with her by lying about him. That rumor spread like wildfire, and suddenly, I was the bad guy. My friend group kicked me out, and everyone was pissed at me for supposedly trying to break them up. That's when I decided to really out him. I used this app called Reclip that lets you save audio of stuff after it's happened, without having your phone out. So, I asked him to hang out to try and make up and talk. He surprisingly agreed, and we met up at one of our usual spots. During our conversation, I brought up his cheating again. He got defensive but then dropped the bombshell. It's fine what I do here as long as she doesn't know. That way, no one gets hurt and I get to have my fun. Those words stuck with me because of how messed up they were. I clipped that part of the conversation with Reclip. After our hangout, I sent the audio to his girlfriend and all our old friends. The fallout was massive. His girlfriend broke up with him immediately, and our friends were divided. Some were shocked and supported me, but most were furious that I'd secretly recorded him and shared it. Now, I'm pretty much on my own. Most of our friends blame me for the drama, even though he was the one cheating. It sucks to lose friends over this, but I couldn't just sit back and watch him hurt her over and over. It feels like a lose-lose situation. I did what I thought was right, and now I'm paying the price. But at least the truth is out there, and she knows what kind of person he really is. Fourth story. I want to fix things with my wife and don't know if it's possible or smart of me. I don't fully know how to start this. Me 22 meters and my wife 22F have been together almost 4 years. We married almost a year and a half ago. However, we separated and we're fully planning on getting a divorce. We've talked multiple times throughout this process. We've had many talks about fixing things. I recently went and talked with her, and she told me all about this man she's been sleeping with. She said they've slept together multiple times. She says it's not as good as we once were cause there were no feelings involved, and he's just a companion when in need. We talked about fixing things. All she said was she would see me in about 2 weeks and would make me a promise. She did not give me any other context other than saying that and that she wanted to figure out what to do to help me. I don't know what to expect here or with this talk. I want to fix things. I've been racking my brain over everything. I can't be mad at her for sleeping with someone else while we were separated and planning on getting a divorce. However, it's still lingering in my mind like what were they doing? Was it better than me? What did she say? What did he say? She went into great detail about it, but not so much that I would know those things. I don't fully think I want to know those things, especially if we can fix things. I just don't know if she's going to want to fix things. I want my wife back and I want to rebuild our relationship. I just don't know what to do and how to do this. I haven't talked to her since she said she was a mess of emotions and wanted to figure out what to do in a way to help me. I'm trying to be optimistic, I just don't know anymore. My main thing here is, do you guys think there is a way to fix things? And am I being stupid for wanting to fix things and being optimistic? I just want my wife back and want to make this work. I don't want anything else or anyone else.